Afternoon. Real quick question. I've been talking about couples in their 50s getting divorced. And one of the reasons why I'm talking about this is because, I was surprised when I read the study, and the study was showing that the couples with the highest rate of divorces are those that are what they would call gray divorces, which represents people that are 50 and above. I was just kind of thinking about that because I fall into that category of someone that was in a long-term relationship, and over a period of years, it was just obvious that this thing was going to end. And so when it ended, it was challenging. And so I wanted to kind of put some information together and share some information with people on things that they can be aware of so that they don't fall in the same ditch. But I'm real excited to be with y'all. And tonight I'm going to just continue on where I started on this topic because it's a need. There's so many people that need help. There's so many people that want to find a way that they can have success in their relationships. Can you hear my mic? Just verify whoever's in there that you can hear my mic, because I forgot to test my mic. But appreciate y'all being in here. And so when you look at the failure of these relationships, I was thinking about it before I got on here. Okay, thank you, Lataya. One of the things that kind of came to my mind is we're the generation that had parents that were in a lot of times long-term relationships. Or a lot of people that I know that are Gen X and above, or before Gen X, whatever that Gen is, whatever, I forget what they are. Um, our parents were the ones that had those long-term relationships, and a lot of them had success, and a lot of them, from the day that they were married, they've been together till the end, and so a lot of us were exposed to that. We were exposed, and then a lot of us were part of Gen X, where we had our upbringing was a little bit different, and we were, latchkey, and we were a lot of independence, and there was a lot of things that we just did, and we survived. We survived. So when you think back, and so through that, it put I believe, a level of fight within a lot of us. Yeah, and they got married at an early age also. That's very true. Because my parents got married as teenagers, and that's why I was talking about that. They got married as actual teenagers. And so, so right out of high school. And so, they struggled when they first got married. So they lived with my grandparents, my mom's parents. They lived with them for a while until, they saved up enough money. But when you're teenagers and you're trying to get jobs, what jobs do teenagers get? And this is before my oldest sister was born. So they had like little jobs but then this is back in the 50s. So they had jobs like factory jobs. And my mom used to clean somebody's house. And there was just stuff that they did to try to survive. But through it, what they were able to do is over a short period of time, they had a goal to have a house. Yeah, they had a goal to have a house, and they put together some money, because what my mom was doing on the side was something that you could kind of do under the table. Everybody knows that game. If you've ever been a self-employed, that little game that people do where you do little things under the table, and it's not something that's shady, but it's just like, that's like a waitress don't disclose every single nickel she makes, probably. And so it was through that they were able to save some money and buy a house. And so me and my siblings grew up in a house in a town in Jersey. And a lot of our, when I say mine, but I mean our representations of relationships were probably fairy tales. They were based upon movies. It was based upon this whole dynamic of there being, just this happily ever after. But sometimes we met people where their vision or their experience was different. You know, and sometimes, like I talk about a person that I dated at one time. I was involved with, and this person, her mindset about arguments or disagreements was that she would stop talking. She would just completely shut down. And so what I noticed was, even when her and her parent would have disagreements, they wouldn't talk to each other for 3 or 4 months. And then somebody would come in the room after some point after a period of months, and buy them a coffee or something, or give them something, and they'd have a conversation about it like months down the road. And my family wasn't like that. My family, I have a big family. We were very vocal, and people, they told you what they thought. My brothers and sisters, everybody told you what they thought. Especially me and my one sister, the sister that's right up above me, the one that had the law degree. We were very, very straight shooters. We tell you what we're thinking, and the youngest. And And so through that, when you're meeting people, your experiences on things is going to be different. So when I talked about the example of relationships and about or about the main three areas, the communication, the finances, and the intimacy, the communication is important because everybody learns to communicate in different ways. I learned to communicate based on having a grandfather that was raw. My grandfather was, he was born down around the time of when the Great Depression was. So he was like 10 or 12 around that time. And he talked to me about the struggle and about his life and about how the race issues and how hard it was. And, so he had he was, when I say he was rough, he was rough. The way he talked, the way he acted, he was aggressive. He was, you know, um, he was rough. For a lot of people, they couldn't understand him. I didn't see any problem with it. But even I'm talking about people within our own family. They couldn't relate to him. They couldn't understand him. But he was my buddy. I mean, I didn't have no. I mean, him didn't have no problems. And because I just understood him because I saw past, for whatever reason, I saw past that hardness or that roughness because I saw his heart. Because a lot of times when he was being rough, it was coming from a place of love. It wasn't coming from a place of hostility or hatred. It was coming from a place of him wanting people to be better and do better, and having a heart about people and about the desire of things. And so tonight, again, I'm just going to tie in this fifth section, and the fifth section is about, you know, it's basically about learning not to grow apart. Through this whole journey, because one of the tricks with a relationship is that, and if you come from a biblical background, you've heard that verse where don't allow anybody to put you asunder, don't allow anybody to tear you apart, and don't allow anything to come in between the union. And you've heard all these statements, and you've heard all this jargon and all these words, but that stuff is important because the separation and the divergence and the obstacles are going to come from those that are closest to you. It's not going to come from a stranger generally, or someone that you don't know. It's going to come from family, friends, in-laws, people that are near and dear, that should be a part of the process of helping you to build a tighter union. But many times people can't see the vision of you building a tighter union because of their own lives, because of something inside of them. Maybe a level of bitterness or jealousy, or who knows what it is. Sometimes people just don't want to see another person happy. I mean, it could be any number of things. But the bottom line is, with many, many times the enemy is in your own house. But a lot of times it could be just the process of you not really. I don't know. It's just a process of used to just getting to a point where over a period of years and through your experiences that you just started growing apart in different directions. Because again, when we meet people generally from the beginning, it's based upon a lot of chemistry, about a lot of what they look like, who are they, what their name, what is their name, what are some of the things that they like. If they like jazz and I like jazz, and do they are they a religious person, and what's their religion? Are they Baptist? Are they Catholic? Are they this? And so all of that stuff we tie into to make it as if it's part of our compatibility, which it can be. I'm not saying that it's not. It can be, but the point is, over a period of time, those things can change. When I even look at my my spiritual beliefs compared to where I was 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, my beliefs changed over the 30 years. From the time that I kind of first got involved with church to the time of where I am now, my beliefs have changed within these last 40 years. I'm no longer where I was because I'm a person that's always in the process of evolving and growing. But if you're with a person that is not evolving and growing, you're going to have the separation. You're going to have the divide. You're going to have two going in separate ways. Two cannot walk together or will not walk together unless they are in agreement. Thieves hang with thieves. Whatever the thing that people do, they hang together. Ocean's 11, as an example, that movie. All them guys know each other. The people that are in something, they all know each other. They're all part of the same clique and the same group. And so you're not invited to the party, as they say. So because you're not part of who they are, they know each other. And so when you look at not allowing something to put you asunder, that putting asunder represents that you're not going to allow anything to tear you apart. And like I said, a lot of times it could be family, it could be You could have a mother-in-law that hates her, that doesn't love her daughter enough that she's going to speak evil of her husband, of her daughters, who she knows is a good man or a good person, to try to break them up because she's just so hateful towards her own daughter. And it might not even be towards the son-in-law. But this is the way people are, and there's nothing that you can do about it. So part of it is and even part of meeting people is you got to meet their family or the ones that are close to see the dynamics, not just at the events when everybody's on their best behavior, but you got to be sitting in those rooms and watch the way people interact and what they're doing, because that'll tell you truly what people are. Thank you, thank you, Latai. I'm trying to be on it, because like I made a video and I posted up on TikTok and YouTube and a couple other places, and in the video, I used a different technique, and I was basically putting things in a box. I was putting things in this box. And part of me putting things in this box, I was talking as I was putting things in this box. And as I'm putting things in this box, what I was doing is I was basically showing in a symbol that you have to start eliminating people and places and things out of your life. You got to start taking all the things that are no longer healthy and no longer that should be a part of your life. And you got to start collecting those things, and you got to get rid of them. Because as long as I'm connected to them things, I'm still connected to the pain. I'm still connected to all of the stuff that I separated from, or that I was no longer tied to. And so as long as I'm holding on to those things, instead of, like, when I got all the stuff in the box, the books and the car and the clothes and the cards and the letters and the this and the that and the bills, and all the stuff that was associated with this person, I had to put it in the box. And once I put it in the box, I took the box and had to throw the box in the trash, because there has to be a separation and a setting apart of you if you want to move on, and that old life and that old person and the energy. And then after that, I talked about going through that room and those rooms and painting walls. And if you're still in that same house, and going in that bedroom and painting stuff and pulling up stuff and moving stuff around. You should not be in the same place in a house or in a home or anything else, as far as everything framed and put in the same way, if you're coming out of a situation that was very toxic and very, very chaotic. You should go through there and revamp, change the energy. You should be intentional. You should be intentional in changing the energy of that space, because you want and you want to invite newness and freshness into your space. And so part of the problem that happens when couples are older is that there is a process of growing apart. And I'm talking about that, but I'm also talking about after you've already grown apart. Some couples actually split because the numbers of four couples over 50 is the largest. 42% of Americans that get married, and I said Americans, I don't know about Britain and all the other countries that watch me, but 42% of Americans that get married end up in divorce. Out of the 42%, 40% of the 42% is older. They're 50 and above. The highest rate of divorces in America is 50 and above. I made 4 videos so far. This is video 5. I'm talking about this topic. You want to go back, and in these videos, I'm gonna put them in. I got them up there, but I got to actually put them in a category or in a series where you can actually find them. And if you're on here and you want to find them, DM me and I'll send them. I'll show you the links to them. If you can't quite find them, DM me and I'll send the links. But you want to go back and look at these videos, because I'm talking about a lot of the areas that are directly connected to the success or the failure of your marriage or of your relationship. This video, and again, this series is not for people that don't want to have a long-term successful relationship. If you're the type of person that you're into flings and you're into this and you're into that, you're not serious and you don't know what it is to be mature, and you don't really want to be with somebody, you don't really want to have success, and if you just want to play all the games and be on the podcast and talk about all the stupid issues that people talk about just to sensationalize their podcast, then this is the wrong page for you. This is the wrong place. Go to where they're at, because I'm talking about stuff where people can change their lives. That's where my heart is. I don't care about all that other nonsense. They can have 1 million people. They can have 20 million people on this. I could care less. I want to reach and touch those that want the help, that want something different, that don't want their generations to keep falling in these same traps that have been set by society. I don't know, that many have fallen in before us. So this is why I'm doing this as a prevention. They say preventing is an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. So this is an attempt for me to prevent the same thing from happening over and over again. It happened with me. I was married for decades, had 3 sons, and this, that, and the other, and so on and so forth. So I'm talking about this stuff from a place of experience. When I wrote my book based upon experience, which enabled me to be a coach. And I got my certification to John Maxwell. I went through all these stages and did all these things. And all of this was part of, some of it was experience, some of it was education for me to get to the place that I am now. But one of the best ways to learn, or one of the best ways to get involved, thank y'all for the taps and the likes and the shares. Appreciate each and one here. One of the best ways to learn something sometimes is to have experience, because if I meet somebody and I'm coaching them, I can coach them from a place of knowing where they are. I'm not coaching you from some hyperbole or some hypothesis or some educated guess or some delusional chaotic thought. I'm coaching you from a place of letting you know the things that I've been through. And based upon what I've been through, I can see where you are. I can feel the pain. I know what it is to be discouraged. I know what it is to go out to dinner for the first time on your own. I know what it is to start over in your late 50s. I know what it is to have to make sure get your credit straightened out and do all those things based upon the marriage and not checking things and not watching things and based upon you paying off debts and all this. I can tell you about all this stuff. I can tell you about the first time even talking to a woman outside of being married. Once you, because that was a struggle for me. Even though it was because I was on live and I had all these candidates that was kind of popping to the forefront and they were whatever. But bottom line, it was a problem from the place of, because I had been out of the habit of talking to other women outside of my wife at that time. That was a struggle for me because I hadn't done that since I was a 20-some-year-old kid. I'm in my late 50s at that time, not when I got divorced. So it wasn't something that I was comfortable with because I hadn't done it for already how many years. That was a struggle because I had conditioned myself that I was no longer receptive or I wasn't trying to be intended to anybody else but who I was with, because I was committed. It was about my spiritual commitment, but it was also about the person that I was in the commitment with. So second thing is there's a tendency sometimes to grow apart based upon values and priorities. When a couple grows apart based upon values and priorities, that means that the couple was never actually it was just chemistry. It was never really any true compatibility, because in order for there to be compatibility, you have to align in your values. I talked to 2 people since I've been divorced. The second person, we did not align in values. We aligned physically. We liked each other and the way we loved and all that stuff and bada bing, but we did not align in values. She worshiped different things than I did. But you don't know, sometimes you don't really see the full magnitude or understand where people are because of where you are. Sometimes I've made excuses about things because maybe I was lonely and I didn't know it. Sometimes we're lonely, we don't know it because we're alone all the time. And it's not that does not mean that just because you're alone that you're lonely, but sometimes you are. Part of this whole process is, again, I can tell you signs of when you are and when you're not, because again, I've been there. And so sometimes when you're in those places, I say it all the time, never go food shopping when you're hungry, never date when you're lonely, because you're going to pick up people that, yes, they're going to be physically appealing and you're going to like them, and you're going to hit it off and so on and so forth, and bada bing and whatever and so on and so forth. But you might not be a match. It's just something that's someone that's attractive to you, but they're not good for you. And that's not saying anything negative about them or yourself, because if they're not your match, neither one of you are good for each other. You're going to hinder each other from getting to where you need to go. Your person that's supposed to match with you is going to be in line with your values. And so you two are going to push forward towards the mark or the prize or whatever you're supposed to do, because you're going to be in alignment. The two are going to become one. The two are going to come into agreement. There won't be all of the confusion, all of the fighting, all of the, yeah, you will have disagreements, but you're still going to have the common, most important thing. You're going to be in agreement and moving in the same direction. Second thing, there's an erosion of intent. Sometimes the intent behind things gets lost in the sauce. You're not clear. And this is why the communication part, when I discussed in part one, has to be something that you have to keep. Communication has to be an ongoing, consistent, revolving process throughout your entire existence and your relationship. It has to be. Where there's going to be an erosion, there's going to be breakdown in conversation, in communication, and so that's when there's the possibility of the failure of the relationship. Failure to renegotiate the relationship trajectory. That's something that's important too. Are you sure on which direction you're going? Have you made it clear? Have you locked it in? Are you locked in on where you're going? Where's the trajectory? Incompatible plans. As we age, sometimes when you age, some people have different plans of things that they want to do, and others have other plans. Again, this all goes back to conversations. What conversations are you having with the people that you say that you love and that you're in these relationships with, or that you're going to get in a relationship? And are you talking to yourself into certain things, or are you listening to what you're actually hearing? Are you listening to what you're actually hearing? So that's all I wanted to share with y'all for today. Again, I like to keep these around 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, because there's so many different sections. Because this is section 5, if I'm not mistaken. It's either 4 or 5. I believe it's 5. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put all 5 of these videos in one single compartment in YouTube. I just got to sit down and actually do it. And that way somebody can go in there and they can go down all of them. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, I did too, sis. I did too. And but I'm glad I learned that's the positive in it. I'm glad I learned, and part of the lesson for me was the writing and a lot of the introspection and a lot of sitting in silence and just trying to see just trying to understand and see why things happen. Especially because, when things generally happen for many of us in the beginning, the conversation is, why did this happen? And, why is this happening to me? And, I didn't, and then maybe, like I often talk about, we start spouting out our resume and saying, well, I'm a good person. I've done this and I've done that. And, I've booked this and I was faithful and I did this and blah, 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 whatever. Just that whole resume. But you're saying your resume to the Almighty. It's crazy when you think about it, but I've done it. I've done it a lot. Until one day I sat and I was thinking, why am I spouting out my resume to the Almighty? I'm supposed to be spouting out his resume. And I'm just saying that as a reference, but I'll be, oh yeah, I've done this and I've done that. You said if I do this and you should, man, stop it. Just stop it, bro. And so it's all good. But appreciate each and every one of y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for the taps, the likes, the shares. Thank y'all for you did the same thing? Yeah. But even with being a good person, Lataya, and even with doing the right thing and wanting to do the right thing, there's still parts of us that you're gonna have to go through life. And part of life is there's good and there's bad. There's ups and there's downs. There's hot and there's cold. There's dichotomies. There's things that are going to work for, there's things that are going to test us. There's things that are going to be good times. There's going to be abundance. There's going to be lack. We're going to have just a multi-dimensional, multi-eventful life, because that's life. And life isn't about just living life and everything just peaches and creams, unless you were raised by one of these. Well, I won't even say that, but appreciate y'all for being in here. Thank y'all, each and every one of y'all. And like I always say, if anybody, you have any questions, Lataya, tonight? Any questions? If not, I'm going to end. So yeah, I appreciate you for being in here. Yeah, I believe that too. I believe that for a long time. That good things happen only to good people. No, that's not true. It rains on the just as well as the unjust. Think about that. It rains on the just as well as the unjust. And if only good things happen to good people, why are there wealthy people that are just diabolical, and why are there poor people that are righteous? It's just that person's life, that person's path, that person's time, that person's season. It's just what is the time, season, the purpose, the struggle, the whatever. It's whatever. We don't know. You know, that's like even when you look at that example with Job, that most of us were taught. Most of us were taught that that's example as Job was. He was being tried not because he was an evil person, but because just so that it could be shown, how he would stand in the in the in the line of fire with all the troubles and all the issues. And it ended up being a great testimony. But to be in a situation like that, I mean, that's challenging. You lose your children, you lose your business, you lose this, you lose that. Your body, you're sick in your body, which is that's one of the hardest things on top of anything. All of the other stuff can be replaced. If you're actually sick and you got boils on your skin, like I believe, like it discussed with him, and he's having to scrape his body, and his wife is telling him to curse the Almighty and die. And at that point, you're already thinking that probably yourself, and then she's not being a help and an asset. And so this is what I'm saying. There's so many challenges that took place for people, and it's important to me to use them as lessons about our lives. And just make sure that yes, and just make sure some of the things that we are going through aren't things that we are actually bringing into our own lives. That we're making ourselves suffer because of holding on to things and not releasing and not letting go. And because again, most of my suffering, and this is a strong, strong statement I'm going to say, all of my suffering was directly connected to still holding on to what someone did, how I felt, my self justifications. It was all based upon me. Because I still had that hot coal in my hand. I still had the coal in my hand. I was mad at them, but I had the hot coal in my hand with all the venom and all the animosity and the hatred and the self justification and the whatever. Instead of releasing it, when you really release it and let it go, that's when we get to the point where we're no longer in that place of suffering. I said it before. It's one thing for me to grab this pen. This pen was put on a fire. It's one thing for me to grab it off the stove and let it go. I might have just burnt myself, and I might even have second degree burns. But it's different than me grabbing the pen and holding it, even in this hot, for extended periods of time. If I hold this pen for extended periods of time, not only did I just hurt myself, but now I'm suffering. The suffering is not just because it's a hot pen. The suffering is because I'm holding on to whatever the pain is for extended periods of time. That's why there's a quote that I live by, and it says, "Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional." Suffering is optional because that's a choice that all of us can make if we decide to make it. And that would be my suggestion and my word of encouragement to everybody out there. And I say that more so to myself, because one of the doctrines that I grew up in as a very young kid was it was a suffering doctrine, where the worse your testimony was, and the worse your health was, and the worse your finances were, the holier you were. That's kind of the way that church was that I grew up in. And part of it was because these people were where they were and where they were coming out of, and because of where our generations were, like 2-3 generations before that, people still were in that lack and that victim mindset, partially. And but over time you grow and you learn, and that's part of what I was saying earlier, is that what I used to believe 30 years ago or even 40 years ago, I don't believe that stuff anymore. I don't believe that stuff anymore, because I know that there's times and seasons for everything. And so that's all I wanted to share with y'all. I appreciate each and every one of y'all for being here. Thank each and every one of you. Have a great day. Like I always say, I believe in you. If you're interested in getting coaching, you can reach out to me, DM me down in the comments, and I'll set up a time. We'll book a call, and we'll set up a time that's best for both of us, and we'll get the party started. Appreciate y'all. All right. Talk to you soon. Thanks. Link is in the bio. So you in the link in the bio, you can book appointments with me in my calendar. I have Calendry or whatever you call it. And that's one thing you can do. And also, for those that's going to watch this video that don't know me, I do have a book that I offer, and I like to kind of put it out there so people know that it's out there. Also, you can get this in the link in the bio. I got reviews on it. People seem to like it. This is the first book I wrote. I'm very, very happy with it, but I'm also ready to work on another one. So appreciate